Thank you, Anand. Can you give me screen sharing permissions, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah. So, hi team, myself Soumya Tiwari. I'm working as a technical consultant with over 5 years of experience. I'm currently working on Salesforce, India. Um, so today, like yesterday, we had a brief discussion on OOPS concepts and how those things might relate with in Salesforce in Epics. So today we are going to talk more about starting with how what are different kinds of processing in Salesforce. One is synchronous and one is asynchronous, and a couple of other things like triggers and events. What is the overall Apex platform? How we are going to use the APIs? What are different how say Apex code looks like, and other different things. Now, firstly, what is a synchronous and asynchronous processing? So, synchronous means so see, this is a clock. Okay, let me create a good, better clock. Let's say it's an oval clock. Now, so this is a clock. So, synchronous means if you are doing an user interaction over here, okay, you are doing an user interaction over here, so it will start the process here itself and the whole process will end over here, let's say. But what does asynchronous processing means? You did some action over here, that process ended over here. Now, after some time, another process might start, which is the action. This process started due to this process, and this is called asynchronous. So, anything happening from here to here, this is synchronous. But anything happening from here to here without any user interaction, because this happened due to the user interaction over here, this is known as asynchronous processing. Okay, now it's not like I have taken a very big gap over here. Let's say something happened over here and your processing happening, and we started another process due to this only. This is called as asynchronous processing. Now, why can we need a asynchronous processing, and why do we need asynchronous processing? So, see, everything happens in process. Like usually, a process bar is defined like this. We are There is a P1 which is running, which is due to a user click. Then another function started from here, and then there is a asynchronous function that we include, and that can start from here. So this is how a process chain might look like. This is okay. Now, basically synchronous processing is either you inserted a record or there is a user interaction like click of a button. Okay, then immediately process one started. It can be a trigger or maybe a method. Okay, process one. Then from that trigger or method, another method got called. Wait, a method got called. Okay, so this is synchronous, like immediately one after the other. But in asynchronous processing, we inserted a record, we had an user interaction, and then there can be a longer process, a longer uh, what we can say, a bigger time consuming process which we cannot enqueue. So basically, what can be a use case over here? Suppose you want to make an API call out. An API call out cannot happen synchronously. You need to be sure that you are making an API call out async, only from a trigger point of view. Okay. basically whenever there is a job which is, so basically in a trigger we are inserting a record, okay, and it has to happen within 10 seconds limit. But when we are inserting a record, the database cannot be logged for more than 10 seconds. Here there is a catch. But when you are doing an API call out, it can take up to 2 minutes. After that, it will time out. So we cannot keep the DB log there for 2 minutes. That's why we have this. What should we say? That's why we have this asynchronous processing there. Now, what is the major difference between synchronous and asynchronous? Why do we have two different? Like, why can't we do it in the same one? It's because there are limits, and there are different limits. So, do you guys know about the um, governor limits? I would like you guys to unmute and give your inputs in between.
Hi Soumya, so since Salesforce is a cloud, so it is the limited resource in which our Apex and other codes can run. So that is the governor limit.
Okay, good. So see, when we talk about governor limits, you are correct. As it is a cloud resource, as it is a multi-tenant architecture, we have limits over here. So basically, we have different limits for synchronous and asynchronous. When we talk about SQL queries, we have 100 limit, like only 100 SQL queries can be there. But when we are doing an async job, like it can be a batch class, it can be a future method, it can be a queuable, a schedulable apex. At that time, synchronous is 100, but in these, the limit for SQL queries is 200. Now, for everything, it won't be the same. Like limits are not always going to be doubled. The number of queries, the number of records that a query can get is 50,000, and this is same for async also. It is not changing. Same goes for total number of records retrieved. Sorry, yeah, total number of records retrieved, 10,000. Okay, so this is the same thing. But when we go to, let's say, um, what what is having a different limit? When you say heap size, for synchronous it is 6 MB, but for async it is 12 MB. So you can have bigger, uh, larger operations, more for loops, more amount of maps in same heap available for you. So that is why we are going to use async whenever we are doing a large jobs. Now, so this was all about synchronous and asynchronous processing. Any questions over here? Okay. Now, more onto the governor limits. So, see, Salesforce follows an architecture where we are in a building, and over here we have different rooms available. Now you can say like this is a apartment, and these are Salesforce orgs. Okay. Now this is let's say a server. A server. This is AP16 server. Asia Pacific 16. So you can get this information like which server your org is running. You can get it from the company information. And this is your org. Let's say um, this is org 1, org 2, org 3. Now let's try to understand this with the help of, let's say, water supply. Now the water supply is limited. Like there is a pipe which is going to each one of them, but let's say org 3 is using all the water, then what, these orgs will get, these will get nothing. So what Salesforce has done in this building is they have limited the number of the amount of water that this org can use in a minute or in a particular transaction. Let's suppose he's opening a tap, he can use only a limited amount of water, so he has to open the tap again after some time. Like it can be like the sensor tap that you have in the washrooms in the malls and offices. So you go to the sensor, it will open the water for, let's say, next 5 seconds, and then it will auto close. So this is how it is. Whenever you're opening the tap, not the whole water is available to org 3, only a limited amount of water is available. Same goes for org 2, org 1, and any other org over here. When it comes to electricity, the same thing is there. And what are these things? Why do we have these limits in place? So that the whole electricity can't be used just by org 2, the whole water usage can't be used by org 3, and there are other orgs which will not get anything. They won't be able to survive. So this way, we have a limited supply to each one of them at one point of time. And these limits are known as governor limits. There are many different types of governor limits for each one of them. Mm, like some orgs can have higher when you request them, but mostly they are in limited numbers. Like there is a default number for each org, and if you want them to be increased, you need to go through a like very strict process. Like Salesforce will uh, check if you actually need higher limits, or if there is some optimizations or that can be done in your org and it can be better. So these things are there. Like you can have not all limits can be increased, some of the limits can be increased, but that depends on case to case basis after a strict overview. Now
May we have a DML governance limit also in that?
yes, so I'm coming on to each and every governor limit right now.
Oh,
We have,
okay, carry.
so see, basically, we have many different kinds of governor limits. We already talked about SQL queries, like 100 SQL queries can be done asynchronously and 200 can be done asynchronously. The number of records that can be retrieved by SQL queries is 50,000. Number of record by database.get query locator is 10,000. These things you can easily get on the developer forums, developer forums. Yeah. Then the number of SOSL, like SOQL is 200, is 100, but SOSL is 20 for both of them. Number of record retrieved in a single SOSL is 2000. Then the number of DML operations that you can do is 200. Sorry, 150, 150. Now, this DML operation means Whenever you are processing any approval processes, it counts under DML operation. Whenever you are converting a lead, it counts under DML operation. Whenever you are doing a rollback or set save point in a database, it counts under a DML operation. Whenever you are doing a delete, insert, merge, undelete, update, upsert, or maybe an event was not published, for publishing a any particular event, like let's say a platform event, you are going to do a DML operation. The number of operations that you can do is 150 at max, but the number of records, the total number of records that you can DML is 10,000. Now, what is this stack depth? Like, anyone can tell me what is a stack depth? Okay, I will tell you. Stack depth. So basically, there is a limit for a stack depth, which is 16. And what is a stack depth? So basically, I told you about processes, right? Like P1, P2, like this, P16, and this is also synchronous only. Now, in a trigger, you clicked on a button, and then there is an insert happening. This is the insert. From an after insert, we updated the same record. Then from after update, the same record is getting updated. So these kind of stack, when it is getting piled up, insert update, insert update. So this stack, the number of DMLs inside DMLs, is known as stack depth. Why we cannot have more than 60? Because it will keep on going, and we need to stop it. Suppose you are inserting account over here. From the insert trigger, you are inserting contact. From here, inserting task. From here, updating contact. So this is known as stack depth. One thing happening after the other, and there is a limit for this, which is 16. More than 16 you cannot do. Total number of HTTP callouts that you can do is 100, but the total number of time that you can take in these 100 callouts is maximum 120 seconds, not more than that. Then comes number of methods with future annotation that you can call in an Apex invocation is 50 for synchronous, and for asynchronous it is going to be 0 in batch and future. Like you cannot call a future method from a batch or from a future. So future chaining is not possible basically. And 50 in a queuable context again. So in asynchronous, from a queuable you can call as many, like as a normal limit, but not from a batch or a future. The maximum number of apex jobs that can be in a queue is like that you can queue in a single instance is 50 for a synchronous job, and one from an asynchronous. So it can be a batch, future, or queuable. From each instance you can queue one queuable job. How many mails you can send is 10 for both. The heap size I already informed, 6 MB for synchronous and 12 MB for asynchronous. And maximum CPU time on Salesforce server is going to be 10 milliseconds for synchronous, which is 10 seconds. So it's 10 seconds for a synchronous job, and 60 seconds, basically up to a minute, on a a synchronous job. So basically, suppose you are facing a timeout limits in a trigger because there is a lot of processing happening. What you can do, you can throw all those processing into an asynchronous job, and it will happen without an issue in an asynchronous job because it is 6 times of what we have in synchronous. Okay, so this is what all the limits are. Now we can move to looking into the developer console, VS Code, and other things, and then we will be looking on how a trigger code looks, how you can do debuggings and other stuff. So now let me just move some of the things aside. We don't need this now. So most of you must be knowing that how to access a developer console. But for those of you who doesn't know, accessing the developer console, you need the permission first. But if it is your developer org, you can simply go to the setup icon. From here, you will get the developer console. Either you can open it in a new page, like this is what I like, but most of them like it on the same tab itself. So you can just drag it and do it, and it will open. So, but personally, I don't like this way of opening the developer console. Now, on this developer console, I'm going to give you an overview of how and where things are. So, if you see at the bottom, should I zoom in? Should I zoom in a bit? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. So see, this is the developer console. At the bottom, you will see logs, tests, checkpoints, query editor. Query editor is something where you can write queries. View state, process, problems. Problems are something that, like, let's say you are writing an Apex code and you are getting a couple of syntactical errors. Those things will be displayed over here. At the top you have the file menu, like the menu bar. Over here you will get all the things like new, open, save all, etc. Here you will get search and file, find, replace all, etc. Then you have the debugging options over here: open, execute anonymous window, execute last, perspective manager. So perspective manager is a the like debug predefined. Wait, once we are going to debug, I will show you the perspective manager of what different kind of perspectives you have. Auto hide logs, show my current logs only, show my current checkpoints only, clear log panel, checkpoint result state, change log levels, So what is log levels? We have different log levels for a particular class or trigger. You can have different log levels for a particular user. You can have different log level for a particular like what for a general setting, like whatever you are getting the logs over here. What can be the log level? You can define all these. You can have multiple workspaces. So suppose from a same user or from different types of, like for writing trigger you need a different workspace, for writing Apex classes you need different workspace. You can have different workspaces. So from here you can directly go to the lightning component library. So here you get the LWS console, LWS distortion via locker, or you get many different things over here. Now let's say we are going to write a Apex class. Before let me check. I might have a couple of okay. So see, this is a simple Apex class that I have written. This I was calling from a LWC component. This is a very simple class that I have written to get like this was a kind of a POC that I was doing. For that I wrote an Apex class. So over here, if you see, if you relate, this is more or less like an Java code. Just the thing is, these things are not there in Java. You have to write the code to get use the drivers of uh, database drivers, and then query from there. Here it is integrated. You don't have to do any such things. You don't have to import anything. Everything is imported by default. Okay. Now in Salesforce we have schema. This is a class which directly gets you all the fields for a particular S object. It can be a standard or a custom object. No worries. You can get all the fields. You and from the schema always. Whenever you are doing accessing any field, let's suppose you want to access any particular field, you can directly do it. Over here, if you see, we have history list. We are querying the first history list and not created it. So this is how we can access the first field, like the first record from the list and its field. So accessing the fields are very easy. You don't have to like sorry, you don't have to get that field, use dot get at that field map. So that way is also available. So let's suppose you want to do some debugging. How you can do it? Here we don't have system.out.println as in Java. Here it is a easier version, which is system.debug. You can simply write system.debug hello world and it will do. You can debug the record itself. Let me show you. So this is the anonymous window in the developer console. Suppose I want to query account ECC equal to select ID comma name from account. Now let's suppose I want to debug this account and see what I have got. Uh, So we got the log. We are getting account ID, account's name. We are getting it. So see, we are having different perspectives now as we have. So if we do it all,
So when we debug a log, so there is a showing the limitation of the SQL.
it is showing yes.
How can we reduce the governor limit? There is the way we reduce
So
to.
yeah, there is a way always. Here it is showing all the limits that you are using.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So,
Now
if that I don't want to hit and that when I inserting a record or update a record hit the governor limit. So how can I reduce that things?
so you have to optimize your code.
Yeah. Okay. So
You
how
have to
can?
optimize your code by reducing the number of DML statements. If you are having more queries, you have to reduce the number of queries. If you are querying large amount of data, you have to reduce the number of data. You have to filter out more data. That is the only way. There is there is no button that reduce my usage of governor limits and it will work. You have to optimize your code.
So I need to bulkify my code.
If you are reaching the CPU time limit, then you need to bulkify your code. But what I am saying is you have to optimize it. It can be via bulkification, it can be via reducing the statements, it can be via reducing the logic, the your logic be too large to be handled in asynchronous processing. You have to split it into sync and async. So all these things you need to do. I don't know the code that you have written. I don't know the business process that you are doing. So I can't comment what exactly you do. But yeah, you need to optimize it so that you can reduce the number of governor limits that you are utilizing.
Okay.
So guys, you have. So I was showing perspective right now as I got the chance. So see, right now we are in a log only perspective. We also have a debug only perspective where we can get the debugs. Okay, we can also get the logs. We can directly jump to a debug. Okay, now there is one more perspective with us, which is all. Over here, you will see the stack tree, from where the execution is happening, and when the execution is happening over here in execution log, it is getting updated real time. Like this is the statement. What is the heap size that is getting utilized? What is the duration that particular line is taking? So with this, you will be able to check which part of your code is uh, not optimized, which is taking more heap size, which is taking large durations, and then you can start working on that area first. So whenever you start working, you need to optimize you need to find out the culprit. Like okay, if your code is having too many SQL limit error, you need to first find out the SQLs that you are doing, and then see if you can merge any of them, if you can reduce any of them. So many times people do this. Like you can query all the data in one SQL, but still there are three or four SQL present in that same instance. So if that is happening, that is wrong. You need to reduce the number of SQLs that you are doing. Now, coming to exception handling. See, we have multiple different types of exceptions. Exception is the parent, and all other exceptions implements exception. So if you are handling any exception and you feel like okay, there can be these 5 lines where exception can come in, you can have those 5 lines inside the try block, and inside the catch you can handle the exception. Inside the catch block you can do many things. Right now I have simply thrown an aura handled exception, because what this will do is this will display this exception in a better way. Okay, the LWC component will handle it in a better way. Instead of getting thrown like it will show an server error, instead of this will show better like okay this is the error. Now when we talk about this what should I say, uh, try catch, if what you can do is you can if you're inserting multiple things, you can have save points, database dot save point sp. You can have a database dot save point over here. Okay, and suppose in this try you inserted 10 different objects and somehow the last one failed. What you can do is sp dot rollback. So what this will do is this you can roll back to where till here. So right now I have not written the full syntax of any of those, just giving you an idea what you can do using database.save point. And it is a best practice, because suppose you are having multiple try catch block and only the last try is getting uh, only the last try is getting failed. In that case also you need to revert the whole processing. You should do it like this. There are multiple logging frameworks that we have that you can use for logging all such kind of issues. The best way is if you can rerun those scenarios. What you can do is you can use database system.debug, rerun the scenario and use the logs to find out. But there are areas where you cannot do it. Like suppose you are doing a payment, like you have implemented a payment integration and that failed. So how you will get the logs? Because we cannot keep the logs turned on all the day. It slows down the system. So in order to escape that issue, you can use a logging framework. Unfortunately, I don't have any logging framework installed, but I can show you Apex on GitHub. Like there are many different logging frameworks available. Over here, what you can do is, so see, we are doing system.debug like I just showed you. We are doing system.debug. But when we are using a logging framework, we use logger.error, logger.warn, logger.info, logger.debug. It will add up all those log statements and insert inside the log as log entries. With this, what you can do is you can easily save all these details and still be safe. See, debug statements increases the log size and increases the amount of time a particular processing is taking, but this will save your time. Now the thing is, let's suppose uh, you want to do it in real time, and like your whole database.save point is using, you're rolling it back, then how this will work? So these logger frameworks uses platform event to insert all these data. So basically, when it is using platform event, all these things are happening asynchronously. All your log entries are getting inserted asynchronously. So this will not even affect your what can we say, governor limits also too much. So with these kind of logging frameworks, like there are many more logging frameworks. Like this is one another logging framework that you have that you can use. Here is the video that we have. They have features like, okay, they haven't shown how we can use it, but I knew about Nebula Logger that they have shown. So I'm showing you this. So this is a very easy one. You can even log from flows, log things from lightning components, etc. So this was all about logger, how you can log things, how you can use it, etc. Now let's jump onto a trigger, and we will jump on trigger. We will understand how things works in Salesforce, actually how all these things. And before going to that part, let's take a 15 to 20 minutes break. Rejoin at 11:10, and then understand all these things of triggers. And we will also understand a queuable epics and see how things are working. If you guys have any questions, please do ask them. Okay, so we have a couple of questions. Let's take them and then. What is meaning of per transaction? Okay, so Pramod, like per transaction. Wait, again reiterating. If you guys are having question, feel free to unmute and ask. It will be better because I'm not able to see your chat screen again and again. So it will be better if you can unmute and ask. What I mean by per transaction is whenever you insert a record, like let's suppose you are clicking on save on an new account button, a new account page. At that time a transaction begins. Basically we can say an instance. A transaction is beginning and it will end as soon as the account is saved successfully. So that is what I mean by per transaction. Yeah, exactly. Thanks Deepak for this explanation. Also, this is also the correct one. So guys, so let's take a 15 to 20 minutes break, and let's start after 10:10. Okay. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.